Hello, everyone. My name is Antonetta Mosley, and I am the founder and principal consultant at I Follow the Leader, a leadership consulting firm specializing in diversity, equity, and inclusion, strategy, initiatives, and education. Today, we are going to continue the Permission to Pivot series. If you have not seen the other videos in the series, go to ifollowtheleader.com and scroll down to see the Permission to Pivot blog that has all of the other videos. So if you've attended a webinar, workshop, training, or courageous conversation that I've led, you know one of the ways that I facilitate is by first being vulnerable. So if I'm going to ask others to be vulnerable, it's really important that I'm willing to do that as well. So today I'm going to tell you a vulnerable story that's also a bit uncomfortable for me to admit that I refuse to pivot in this situation. So I have had contacts since I was 13 years old, so for over 20 years, and I had the same optometrist and had not been to another optometrist until yesterday. So that was great. It worked for me. I lived in Georgia. I went to an optometrist in Georgia. However, I moved 2 years ago to Durham, and I still did not want to switch optometrists. Even though I have a very difficult eye situation, I have keratoconus, which is an eye disease, and so it's really important that when I get new contacts, I go in to get fitted correctly. And so obviously, I had an optometrist in Georgia. I lived in North Carolina, and so it was very difficult once I went to the appointment to actually come back. So I was just getting the contacts shipped to me, and so if there were any issues, they really could not be resolved quickly. So obviously my optometrist in Georgia told me, you need a new optometrist. I love you, but you have to go. And I really didn't listen, and last year I still went there because I just really wanted to. I did not want to change. I did not want a new optometrist. I had the same two optometrists my entire life. I didn't want to pivot. I knew I needed to pivot. I knew it made the most logical sense, but I resisted. So then it came time. Again, I have astigmatism really bad. They've been telling me you probably need to go away from soft lenses. And so, I tried hard lenses and I said, no, I don't like it. And so I only tried hard lenses for a week. I went back to soft, and then it came up to the time again where there were these new lenses that actually weren't as hard as hard lenses. And I said, I really just don't want to learn anything new. I really like soft lenses. I like that I could lose my contacts because I only have them once a month. And I made that decision. So it's fast forward to yesterday. I finally got an optometrist in North Carolina. Went to my first appointment, and of course the first thing he said was, you probably need to go away from soft lenses. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that before, and I chose not to. So then when he did my exam, he said, unfortunately, your left eye, now it's gotten worse. So you actually can't stay in soft lenses. We're going to have to go to this new type of lens. And so it's really scary. But guess what? I could have gone to the new lens last year, but I didn't want to pivot. I didn't want to change. And so now I am forced to change. And if I'm honest, over the last 6 months, driving at night has been increasingly difficult. And it's not fun. And I could tell my astigmatism had probably gotten worse because, again, night driving and the headlights were just very uncomfortable. So if I had switched to the lens as recommended last year, I probably wouldn't have had this really difficult, uncomfortable, and scary last 6 months driving at night. And so really, I'm telling you this story. It's a little funny. It's a little sad, but really it's around pivoting and giving yourself permission to pivot. And when you get expert advice that it's time to pivot, actually adhering to that. So I ignored the signs, I ignored the advice, And it caused me to not be able to drive well at night for the last 6 months. So it came to my detriment. And so to tie this back into diversity, equity, inclusion, do not be like me and how I was with my contacts and my eyes. When you receive the expert advice that it's time to pivot, when you read the business case for DEI, when you read that the demographics are changing, when you read that your competitors have shifted and are being more competitive and better because they have a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, know that it is time to shift. And so my recommendation for you is, if you do not have a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, it's time to pivot. Do not wait until you are receiving more EEOC complaints, until you have more turnover, until you're not recruiting the best talent anymore. It's time to pivot now. Research and best practices have shown that you need a diversity, equity, inclusion strategy that is strategic and that is measurable in helping you to take the actions that you need. So again, it's time to pivot. Reach out to me if you need help with your DEI strategy, and I'm here for you. I'm an expert in the arena, and we will make it so that you are not experiencing some of the growing pains that I have by refusing to pivot sooner. Thanks so much.